Fentanyl, meth, shanks, and a whole lot more. More than 100 items seized in an unprecedented search warrant served at a youth detention center run by the state agency DCYF.
The governor says the problems are fixed. The chief of police investigating says they aren't. As Fox 13's Matthew Smith reports, we're talking about a school where young adults are locked up for crimes they committed as juveniles.
Green Hill, a DCYF facility, is located in Lewis County, but the residents there are meant to be rehabbed before being released back into the community around the state. Those who work with these kids and young adults say the failures taking place behind closed doors put all of us at risk.
We don't know what's going on. Everything's behind a barbed wire fence.
It's a fence that keeps residents in, but apparently information from coming out. The Green Hill School, a juvenile rehab center for males between 17 and 24, is run by the state.
I can't believe we have to do this.
So it's hard to put into words just how rare it is for investigators to serve a search warrant on a state facility, a move the Centralia police chief found necessary because he was learning more about drugs from tipsters than a direct line of communication from DCYF.
Show me the way.
The video you're looking at is from a body-worn camera. The blur's due to the undercover officers on site in August 2023. This was a last resort after this letter sent to Governor Inslee failed to trigger an investigation.
Sending a letter to the governor it makes a statement in that, look, we are getting so fed up with this. We see that there's such a problem here. We are reaching up to the highest person in the government.
Chief Denham was pretty blunt in that letter. It outlined allegations of an intimate relationship between an employee and a teen inmate, and methods used to smuggle drugs in through mentors. The crux of the letter, though, a request to, quote, direct the Office of the Attorney General to investigate the practices and operating procedures.
I think there was some unfortunate miscommunication leading to that.
The governor's office denied the request, telling the chief, who doubles as the head of JNET, or the Joint Narcotics Enforcement Team, quote, as you may know, Green Hill School partners with local law enforcement and the Joint Narcotics Enforcement Team.
He refers to JNET as an organization that I need to go talk to. And it's like, you didn't even pick up the phone and even ask me what was going on. You spelled my name wrong, for goodness sakes.
One of the attorneys sent me a letter back saying everything had been addressed, everything's going great, everything's fine.
So we arrive here, Chief Denham and his detectives looking for drugs, cell phones, and much, much more.
And it's all been taken care of. Obviously that has not happened, and that's why we're here.
On camera is Randy Aldana. He's the interim superintendent. He would direct the security staff to open the doors to investigators. By the time they were done, they'd found 6 years worth of contraband that had never been turned over to police. Fentanyl, weed-infused vape pens, meth, phones, and receipts, an actual paper trail of how money exchanged hands between residents. After more than an hour of documentation, they documented more than 140 items, each a potential charge. For instance, roughly 85 grams of weed was found on resident Gavin McGregor. When caught, DCYF records indicate he tried to bribe a guard, quote, first with $1,000, then $10,000 to take the wrist restraints off and look the other way. The evidence, or weed, sat in these lockers for years.
That thing is jam full, holy smokes.
McGregor, like so many, avoided charges because these items were never turned over to investigators. So he was allowed to finish his time at Green Hill and walk free. He ended up in Spokane, where he's now facing a murder charge after a 17-year-old was gunned down in a bait-and-switch drug deal. Chief Denham questions if a drug charge could have saved a life.
Should have been charged, wasn't, gets out of Green Hill. Would that have changed the outcome? We don't know. But could it have changed the outcome? That's possible.
It was the staffing. It was the upper managements that drove me away, not the residents.
It's not just police who are showing concern.
It's such a great opportunity and program for these youth if it was ran differently. If we had people that truly cared about the well-being of them.
This former employee didn't want to show her face, but walked us through the heartbreak of dealing with young adults that never had a chance. One addict telling her he was aware of how drugs were coming in and that he couldn't stop if the flow of drugs didn't.
I needed hard evidence before I said anything, and now that I saw everything happening, that's when I went up and they just shrugged their shoulders.
So you're basically telling people above you, this resident says that drugs are coming in, they're aware of how it's happening, and poof, they just...
He's gone. He went to DOC. Poof, done. Within 24 hours.
There have been arrests. In fact, as recently as this month, a 42-year-old worker was arrested for bringing drugs into the facility. Is it a sign of change is working? Janette's boss says more needs to be done.
They are failing every Washington citizen and resident in Washington State. If you're going to allow poison to come into a facility that you are in control of, as far as I'm concerned, you're no better than the drug dealer that's actually delivering it.
Governor Inslee's office tells us changes have been made and that Inslee doesn't believe a battle to keep drugs out is ever truly over. DCYF says that changes, including training, increased wellness checks, new body scanners, and more have been implemented. But as we worked on this story, we reached out to DCYF about a number of overdoses that occurred this month. They tell us there's been 4.